The alley's grip. A chill wind whistles down the alleyway, a narrow chasm between buildings. The bricks are slick with an oily residue, reflecting the dim streetlights in a grotesque parody of starlight. The air hangs heavy, thick with the stench of decay and the unspoken promise of violence. No laughter graces this passage, no music, only the scuttling of unseen things and the echo of hurried footsteps disappearing into the oppressive darkness. This is the alleyway nobody returns from. The lost child. 8-year-old Timmy clutched his teddy bear, his small frame shaking. He had chased a runaway red ball, a birthday gift from just hours before, into the mouth of the dreaded alleyway. His mother's warnings echoed in his ears, but the allure of the lost toy outweighed his fear. He edged forward, the shadows seeming to reach out like grasping claws. A low growl rumbled from the darkness ahead. Timmy froze, his blood turning to ice. He turned to run, but a cold hand clamped down on his shoulder, its grip unbreakable. Timmy's scream died in his throat as the darkness swallowed him whole. The desperate journalist. Jamie, a young journalist hungry for his big break, had heard the whispers. Tales of a haunted alleyway, a place where people vanished without a trace, had circulated for years. The alley was a local legend, a place of unspeakable horror. It was said that those who entered never returned the same, if they returned at all. He scoffed at the superstitious tales, seeing an opportunity to expose the truth, to prove himself fearless. Jamie believed that uncovering the mystery would catapult his career. Armed with only a flashlight and a voice recorder, he stepped into the alley. The air was thick, with an eerie silence, broken only by the distant hum of the city. The oppressive atmosphere pressed in on him, stifling. Each step felt heavier, as if the darkness itself was trying to hold him back. The air grew colder, the darkness more absolute with each step. His breath became visible, a ghostly mist in the frigid air. He felt a prickling sensation on the back of his neck, a feeling of being watched. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound amplified in the silence. He stopped, shining his flashlight into the darkness, but the beam was swallowed by the impenetrable shadows. It was as if the darkness was alive, consuming the light. A raspy voice whispered directly into his ear, "Turn back." Panic seized him. The voice was so close, yet no one was there. He ran, his heart pounding against his ribs, the unseen presence close behind. The alley seemed to stretch endlessly, every corner a dead end. He burst out of the alley, gasping for breath, the feeling of unseen eyes lingering long after he had escaped. The experience had changed him, the legend now a part of his reality. The detective's demise. Detective Miller, a grizzled veteran with years of experience in the city's underbelly, stood at the entrance to the alley. His eyes scanned the darkness, every shadow a potential threat, every sound a possible clue. The city had always been a place of secrets, but this alley held the darkest of them all. He was a man of logic, of evidence, yet even he couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to this place. The air was thick with an unspoken menace, a palpable tension that set his nerves on edge. It was as if the alley itself was alive, watching, waiting. He was investigating the disappearance of Timmy, the latest in a string of missing person cases connected to the alley. Each case was a haunting echo of the last. Children vanishing without a trace, leaving behind only heartbroken families and unanswered questions. The evidence was scant, but the pattern was undeniable. He had seen the fear in the eyes of those who spoke of it, heard the despair in the voices of the families left behind. Their stories were filled with whispers of shadows moving in the night, of strange noises and fleeting glimpses of something not quite human. The fear was real, and it was spreading. He entered the alley, his hand resting on his service revolver, his jaw set in grim determination. Each step he took echoed off the walls, the sound swallowed by the oppressive darkness. He was determined to find the truth, no matter the cost. The air was thick with the stench of death. It was a smell he had encountered many times before, but here it was different, more intense, more personal. It clung to him, seeping into his clothes, his skin, his very soul. He pressed on, deeper into the darkness. The alley seemed to stretch on forever, a labyrinth of shadows and echoes. Every corner he turned, every step he took, brought him closer to the heart of the mystery and to the danger that awaited him. Then he saw it. A child's teddy bear lying discarded on the ground, its fur matted and stained. It was a small, innocent thing, but in this place it was a symbol of something much darker. It was a clue, a piece of the puzzle, and he knew he had to follow it. As he reached for it, a cold hand shot up from the shadows, grasping his wrist with inhuman strength. The grip was like iron, unyielding and merciless. He struggled, but it was no use. The shadows had him now. He looked into the eyes of his attacker, 2 points of malevolent red fire in the darkness, and knew that he had walked into a nightmare from which there was no escape. The realization hit him like a blow, and he knew that this was the end. The alley had claimed another victim. The alley seemed to pulse with a life of its own, its darkness a living, breathing entity. It fed on the fear of the city, growing stronger with each life it claimed. Those who dared to enter felt its presence, a suffocating weight on their chests, a whisper of icy breath on the back of their necks. It watched them, unseen eyes boring into their souls, reveling in their terror. It toyed with them, whispering their names, mimicking their loved ones' voices, driving them to the brink of madness before it finally claimed them. Whispers in the dark. The alley was a tapestry of fear, woven from the threads of countless nightmares. Whispers followed those who dared to enter, whispers that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. They spoke of unspeakable horrors, of ancient evils that lurked in the darkness, of souls trapped forever within its grasp. They whispered of Timmy, his laughter echoing through the darkness, forever a prisoner of the alley. They whispered of Jamie, driven mad by the horrors he had witnessed, his sanity shattered like broken glass. And they whispered of Detective Miller, his courage failing in the face of true terror, his last breath a whimper of despair. The cycle continues. The alleyway remained a scar on the face of the city, a testament to the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of everyday life. It was a place where the forgotten and the forsaken found solace, a hidden corner where the city's secrets festered and grew. It cared not for the passage of time, for the rise and fall of civilizations. Seasons changed, buildings decayed, but the alleyway stood as a silent witness to it all, indifferent to the world around it. It existed outside of such things, a timeless entity fueled by the primal fear that resided in the hearts of all living creatures. The alleyway was a realm of shadows where the line between reality and nightmare blurred, and so the cycle continued. Night after night, the alleyway claimed its victims, an unending loop of fear and mystery. A stray cat chasing a shadow would vanish without a trace. Its disappearance would go unnoticed, just another lost soul in the city's underbelly. A drunkard, stumbling home in the dead of night, would take a shortcut through the alley, never to be seen again. His fate would become another whispered story, a cautionary tale told in hushed tones. Each disappearance added to the legend, each whispered tale a warning unheeded. The alleyway thrived on these stories, growing darker and more menacing with each passing night. Trapped forever? Were the victims truly gone, their souls devoured by the darkness? Or did they linger within the alley's grasp, their spirits forever intertwined with its own? Some whispered of seeing shadowy figures lurking at the edges of their vision, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Others claimed to hear faint cries for help echoing from the alley, pleas for salvation that went unanswered. The truth, like the alley itself, remained shrouded in darkness, a mystery that defied explanation. A warning unheeded. The alleyway stood as a stark reminder of the fragility of life, of the darkness that lurked just beyond the veil of reality. It was a place where reason failed, where logic was twisted and contorted, where the familiar became terrifying and the impossible became horrifyingly real. And though the city tried to forget, to erase the stain of its presence, the alleyway remained, a silent sentinel waiting patiently for its next victim. For the alleyway nobody returns from never truly forgets. It waits and it watches.